For the last 5 years or so, it's felt like Syracuse basketball completely stagnated under Jim Boeheim, an icon, a legend, a Hall of Famer. But there certainly seemed to be a ceiling of where Syracuse basketball could eventually go or ultimately get to. Well, I think that ceiling's been shattered by Adrian Autry, when his first season had better results on the floor than Jim Boeheim did over the last decade, and now on the recruiting trail, another big victory. Sadiq White, top 25 player in America, commits to the Orange. More details on this just ahead, but just a reminder before we get there to subscribe to the channel. Click on this button below me. That way you'll be notified when we do DA deep dives like this one. You'll be amongst the first to know. And when we go live Sunday nights, 7 o'clock Eastern time, right here on YouTube, it's Watch DA Live. Click on this button below me. Be one with the channel. Sadiq White's a really interesting player coming out of the Charlotte area. He's the best player in the state of North Carolina, which has a lot of basketball talent. He's 6'7", 6'8", bouncy, springy, gets up and down the floor really well, elevates around the basket. He kind of looks like your prototypical college basketball high-end NBA player, a guy that's rangy, lanky, and can get up and down the floor, very athletic, can finish. That's the type of guy that Syracuse has for many years targeted, and now has become kind of the it type of body, the it type of player that the NBA looks for. So this is a player in Sadiq White who lots of scouts, lots of schools were very, very interested in. For Jim Boeheim, really since the Syracuse Orange entered the ACC, there's really been only a certain level they've been able to get to. Yes, they've had a couple of Final Four runs, so you can't say they weren't able to win anything. But regular seasons, I mean, let's face it, aside from that first year in the ACC, everything else inside the conference since they moved from the Big East has been 17, 18, maybe 20 wins. Cross your fingers on Selection Sunday and hope that you did just enough in the ACC tournament to just kind of inch your way in, squeak into the NCAA tournament, and pray you're on the inside of that bubble instead of the outside of the bubble. And then roll the dice, take your chances in March, and hopefully you win a couple of games to get to the second weekend of the tournament. But last year, in Adrian Autry's first year at the helm, he had a better regular season record than any that Jim Boeheim had in his final 6 seasons inside the Carrier Dome. Year number 1, SU didn't make the tournament, and yes, they decided, I thought incorrectly, to not play in the NIT, so there was really no postseason. But still, it was a Syracuse season that by most measures was a success, and that was Autry's year number 1. Well, now on the recruiting trail, Adrian Autry is also paying massive dividends because his first commit was Donnie Freeman, a 5-star kid who's going to play power forward, and now he's got Sadiq White added as well, another 5-star recruit. Syracuse hadn't won 11 ACC games, 11 games in the ACC regular season since that first year under Boeheim in the ACC, which was a decade ago. 2 of his first 3 recruits commits to the Orange are both 5-star guys. Anybody following Syracuse basketball knows that those have been few and far between in the last decade for Jim Boeheim. There's usually been, again, a bit of a level that Syracuse has been unable to get beyond, both on the floor and in recruiting under Boeheim. And I think the program really just stagnated. Boeheim had been there for so long. I think that his touch, while he certainly had the respect from a resume standpoint of all of these high school kids and high school coaches, I think in terms of connection with a younger generation, in terms of a fresh attitude, a fresh approach, in terms of an energy, a vibe around the program, it's really been lacking for a long time until Autry took over. Now, certainly people could worry about, well, can Adrian Autry fill those shoes? But this is what I think the Sadiq White and Donnie Freeman commitments show us about Adrian Autry. Autry's best qualities take a little bit from Boeheim and then do the opposite of Boeheim. Here's what I mean. When White added what made him decide to choose Syracuse, he said, they're a coaching staff that's willing to tell me things I don't want to hear, and that's how I'm going to get better. Well, that sounds a lot like Jim Boeheim, a tough coach, sometimes an overly critical coach, a coach that can put players in doghouses and never let them out. And yes, sometimes that tough love led to a better player, Sometimes that tough love led to a player completely ignoring the team and the coach and wanting to transfer out, or just always being emotionally detached and never being very productive. So the fact that you have a young man in Sadiq White who wants that says a lot about White, but also says that Adrian Autry still has the roots of what made Jim Boeheim really effective. The old school, I'm going to tell you things that other people won't tell you. I'm not just going to pat you on the back. I'm going to tell you things that you need to hear to be better and so that we can win. Great, and White likes that. But also, I think Adrian Autry feels like a new version of an NCAA coach. He's not as cynical and bitter and negative as Boeheim was. He's not picking a fight with every media member, every official. Autry can be stern, but Autry also has a much more positive vibe. And I think you do need that in today's college basketball world. And I can tell you, being a Syracuse grad, it became exhausting every year to look at your head coach and kind of feel like he didn't want to be there, or he was kind of cynical and he didn't like the places that college basketball was going. I'm a fan. I want to be enthusiastic. I want to be excited. And of course, winning does that. But also, the temperament of the face of the program, and in many ways the face of the school, also dictates that. And Autry has a much better temperament for bringing fans into the frame feeling like, oh, this is our program. And then also players feel more connected, more revived, more energized by Autry's attitude. Let's also look at the schools that Syracuse beat for Sadiq White. The biggest one being Alabama, who was definitely in on White and was one of the finalists, just coming off a Final Four appearance. And that program under Nate Oates has completely exploded. So you beat out a program that's been much better than you over the last couple of years, especially in March. They've been a very good team the last handful of seasons. You beat Tennessee, another huge SEC school that went to the Elite Eight this past season. He also chose Syracuse over Texas, and the Longhorns made the NCAA tournament and won a game as well, and chose Syracuse over USC. Now, the Trojans didn't have much success at all last season. It is Los Angeles, the sun, the fun, the surf of Southern California in January and February, and Sadiq White chose gray skies and a lot of snow in central New York in January and February. So that says something as well, wouldn't you say? All of this suggests the Syracuse basketball program made the right hire. This is good news for Orange Nation. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. A little reminder to click on this subscribe button right next to me to make sure that you get the notifications when we do DA deep dives like this one, and also when we go live on Sunday nights at Watch DA Live. And I run a Syracuse website as well with all of your latest Syracuse news. That's theorangefizz.com, theorangefizz.com, for stuff like this, recruiting news on Syracuse and daily play-by-play breakdowns, analysis of the storylines going around the Orange and the ACC. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm DA, Damon Amendolara. We'll see you next time.